Your position has become redundant in our new organizational framework. Those 12 words ended my 15-year career, delivered through a screen by someone who'd been at the company for just 8 weeks. What the new owners of Skyward Tech didn't realize, I'd seen this coming months ago, and I wasn't leaving empty-handed. I had something far more valuable than a corner office or stock options. I had the blueprint they couldn't understand, the vision they were systematically destroying, and a team of brilliant minds ready to follow me out the door. They thought firing me would protect their acquisition. Instead, it created their biggest competitor and triggered the fastest investor panic the industry had seen in years. This is how getting pushed out of the company I helped build for 15 years became the best thing that ever happened to me. Your position has become redundant in our new organizational framework, Elizabeth stated coldly during our video conference, her Manhattan skyline background as artificial as her smile. We'll be consolidating your entire division, effective immediately. My name is Michael Ramirez, 48 years old, Chief Innovation Officer at Skyward Tech Solutions in Austin, Texas. For 15 years, I had pioneered systems and led teams that transformed us from a struggling software startup into an industry leader in cloud security architecture. Every major platform we launched, every patented innovation, every Fortune 500 client relationship, I had built them from nothing. I didn't raise my voice or plead my case when Elizabeth delivered the news. I simply asked about the transition timeline and severance details, then disconnected the call, professional to the end. That was 4 weeks ago. Today I sit in my home office, reviewing the non-compete clause in my employment contract. The language contains ambiguities, significant ones. The acquiring company's legal department had been careless, likely assuming that employees from a regional tech firm wouldn't notice or have the resources to challenge them. Their mistake. My phone buzzes with another message from Aiden, our former lead architect, the 7th senior engineer to reach out since the acquisition announcement. You called it about the new management. They're gutting the innovation pipeline and pushing outdated security protocols. Are you still thinking about that venture we discussed? I set my phone down without responding. Not yet. Timing matters. The acquisition had been celebrated across the tech industry. Meridian Global, a publicly traded technology conglomerate, absorbing our promising Skyward Tech. The press release praised our complementary security capabilities and shared vision for the future of cloud architecture. Elizabeth Winters, their newly appointed COO for our division, had promised minimal disruption. We value the innovation engine that built Skyward Tech, she said in her first company-wide address. Empty words. The first layoffs came within 10 days. I opened my laptop and reviewed the business plan I'd been refining for months, not because I predicted being fired, though the signs were there, but because I saw the company's direction shifting even before the acquisition. The executive team had started prioritizing quick growth metrics over sustainable innovation when Meridian's offer appeared. On my wall-mounted monitor, I pulled up Skyward Tech's client roster, names like Tesla, Adobe, and Bank of America, companies who trusted our security architecture with their most sensitive data. Below the client list was a spreadsheet tracking our core security protocols, the ones Meridian was now dismantling in favor of their outdated systems. I had joined Skyward Tech when it was just 8 people working out of a converted warehouse in East Austin. The founder, William Chen, had a vision for revolutionizing cloud security, but lacked the technical framework to execute it. I created that framework, building our first viable product, working 80-hour weeks, while my personal life took a back seat. For 15 years, I declined offers from Silicon Valley giants with better compensation packages. William made me feel essential. "This is your company too, Michael," he would say during our late-night coding sessions. We didn't have formal equity agreements beyond my initial stock options, a mistake I now recognize, but there was always the promise that loyalty would eventually be rewarded. That promise died when Meridian arrived. The acquisition had been valued at $2.4 billion, a figure that made headlines throughout the tech world. But those outside our walls couldn't see what was happening within them. The integration was essentially a dismantling of everything that made Skyward Tech exceptional. I pulled up another document on my screen, the Foundation for Altitude Security, a competing firm built on everything Skyward Tech was abandoning. I'd been methodically developing this contingency plan for months, ever since I overheard William's son Marcus, who took over as CEO 2 years ago, discussing which divisions would be redundant after a potential acquisition. My phone buzzed again. Aiden wasn't giving up. "Michael, please. The team needs direction. Half the security architecture team has been reassigned to maintaining legacy systems. Meridian doesn't understand what we've built." This time I responded, "Dinner. My place, Saturday, 7 p.m., bring Layla and Raj." I closed my laptop and walked to my backyard, gazing at the Austin skyline. The city had changed dramatically since I moved here 15 years ago, just as Skyward Tech had evolved from scrappy startup to acquisition target. Change was inevitable. Adaptation was essential. When I returned inside, an email from Elizabeth waited in my inbox. "Requesting access to your project documentation and development roadmaps. Need complete transfer by end of day tomorrow." I complied promptly, providing comprehensive documentation on every project, all carefully prepared to be technically accurate while revealing nothing about the innovative connecting architecture that existed only in my head and private notes. Professional to the end. The following evening, I received a LinkedIn message from William Chen. "This wasn't what I wanted, Michael. Call me when you can." Saturday evening, my kitchen island held 5 laptops, 3 empty pizza boxes, and a whiteboard filled with network diagrams. Aiden, Layla, Raj, and Sasha, Skyward Tech's top technical talent, had been with me for hours, discussing what we all knew but had been reluctant to acknowledge. "They're systematically removing every innovation we built," Layla said, our cybersecurity expert whose protocols had earned us government certification. "Last week, they replaced our adaptive threat modeling with their standard package from 2019. Raj nodded grimly. "2 major clients already called me privately asking what's happening. I couldn't give them answers." "The new management doesn't understand our architecture," Aiden added. "They're treating it like any ordinary security system when we specifically designed it to be adaptive and responsive." I stood and uncapped a marker. Here's what Meridian doesn't grasp, and what we can build upon. For the next hour, I outlined my vision for altitude security, drawing on the whiteboard as the team's expression shifted from frustration to cautious excitement. By midnight, 5 laptops contained the beginnings of a business plan, and 5 minds shared a renewed sense of purpose. As they left, Sasha lingered behind. "They're making a catastrophic mistake letting you go," she said quietly, "but maybe it's exactly what needed to happen." The following Monday, I received a formal cease and desist letter from Meridian's legal department, citing confidentiality concerns and potential competitive activities. They'd been monitoring our LinkedIn connections and growing worried. The letter confirmed what I already suspected. They recognized my value too late and now feared what I might build. I didn't respond. Instead, I called William Chen. William met me at Mozart's Coffee on Lake Austin, away from corporate eyes and ears. At 67, he moved with the same restless energy I remembered from our startup days, though gray had completely replaced the black in his hair. "They're destroying everything we built," he said without preamble, stirring his untouched coffee. "Marcus doesn't see it. He thinks his executive position is a stepping stone." I nodded. "The acquisition was never about our innovation, was it?" William shook his head. "It was about our client list and recurring revenue. The technology, your technology, was secondary to them. The revelation shouldn't have stung after 15 years in the industry, but it did. I'd given Skyward Tech the prime years of my career, solving impossible security challenges, leading teams through all-night coding sessions before major releases, sacrificing a marriage to the demands of building something meaningful. "Your dedication built this company," William said, seeming to read my thoughts. "I still remember when you turned down that offer from Microsoft in 2012. I smiled at the memory. The compensation package had been double what Skyward Tech could offer, but William had convinced me to stay, promising that we were building something that would change the industry. And we did change it, I replied, until Meridian decided change was too difficult to manage. William slid a folder across the table. "These are the technical requirements for Securitech Financial's new cloud infrastructure, our biggest client. Meridian promised them a customized solution, but they're planning to deliver their standard package with minor modifications." I scanned the documents. "This won't work for Securitech's multi-region architecture." William nodded. "Exactly. and the timeline they've committed to is impossible with their approach. I closed the folder. Why are you sharing this? He met my eyes directly. Because someone should build what Securitech actually needs. 3 days after meeting William, I received a formal email from Meridian's HR department detailing my severance package. The terms were generous on the surface, 6 months' salary and extended health benefits, but included enhanced non-compete language that hadn't been in my original contract. I forwarded it to Eliana Torres, an attorney specializing in tech employment law. Her response came within hours. They're overreaching. The new terms aren't enforceable retroactively, and the original language has significant limitations in scope. That evening, I attended Meridian's first integration showcase at what used to be Skyward Tech headquarters. Elizabeth Winters hosted the event in the open concept main floor where our team once celebrated product launches. The space had been redecorated with Meridian's corporate blue and steel gray color scheme. The Skyward Tech logo now a small footnote beneath Meridian's dominant branding. Our unified security approach will streamline operations across all client platforms, Elizabeth announced to the room of uncomfortable-looking engineers and anxious clients. The transition to Meridian's enterprise architecture will be completed within 5 months. I watched the faces of my former team members as they registered what this meant. The destruction of 5 years of innovative work to force-fit an inferior system. Across the room, I spotted Marcus Chen, nodding along enthusiastically from his new position as Meridian's Vice President of Strategic Development. Next to me, a representative from Securitech Financial frowned throughout the presentation. When Elizabeth opened the floor for questions, he asked the one that mattered most. How will these changes affect our custom security protocols? Elizabeth's smile didn't waver. We'll maintain all essential functionality while improving efficiency through standardization. As the room filled with corporate jargon, I slipped out quietly. In my car, I received a text from Layla. Did you hear that nonsense? She just promised to deliver the impossible on an absurd timeline. I replied with 7 words. Office space secured. Meeting tomorrow, 8 p.m. The space I'd leased was nothing like Skyward Tech's sleek headquarters. Just 2,000 square feet in a renovated manufacturing building in East Austin's tech corridor. Exposed brick walls, concrete floors, and industrial windows created a workspace that felt raw and authentic, matching our nascent company's reality. When the team arrived, their reactions ranged from nostalgia to excitement. Reminds me of the original Skyward Tech space, Aiden said, setting his laptop bag on one of the folding tables I'd arranged in the main area. Better, Raj replied. This place doesn't have Marcus stopping by to ask when we'll hit meaningless marketing benchmarks. I gathered them around a whiteboard I'd mounted on the brick wall. Before we discuss specific plans, I need to know you understand what we're risking. Meridian will fight us with everything they have. Sasha, our head of interface security architecture who'd resigned from Skyward Tech that morning, spoke first. They're already failing. 2 enterprise clients called me directly today asking if I could help them maintain their existing security protocols outside of Meridian's system. Layla nodded. The integration is going exactly as poorly as we predicted. Elizabeth's team doesn't understand the adaptive architecture. I uncapped a marker and wrote altitude security across the top of the whiteboard. Below it, I listed our core principles: adaptive architecture, client-specific protocols, transparent deployment. This isn't just about building a competitor, I explained. We're preserving an approach to security that's being systematically dismantled by people who don't understand its value. By midnight, we had outlined roles, initial development priorities, and a 6-month roadmap. As the team packed up to leave, Raj paused. You know they'll claim we stole their intellectual property. I nodded. We're building from first principles, not copying code. Everything we create will be documented from inception with clean development histories. And the legal ramifications? Layla asked. Already addressed, I replied, handing each of them a folder. Our attorney has prepared everything. Review it carefully before our next meeting. 3 weeks into developing Altitude Security's core architecture, the opportunity we'd anticipated materialized. My phone rang at 6:17 a.m., displaying William Chen's number. Securitech is experiencing critical security failures across their payment processing system, he said without preamble. Meridian's integration caused data pathway conflicts they can't resolve. I sat up in bed, immediately alert. How bad? Bad enough that their CTO has been awake for 36 hours. Meridian promised a fix yesterday morning, then again last night. Nothing's working. I pulled up my laptop. They tried forcing a standardized security protocol onto a customized transaction architecture. Exactly. William's voice carried a mixture of vindication and concern. Securitech's board is meeting an emergency session at noon. They're facing potential regulatory issues if they can't restore proper security logging. I thought carefully before asking the critical question, "Does Securitech know you're calling me?" A pause. Their CTO asked if you were available for consultation. Unofficially, of course. By mid-morning, I had assembled our core team in our office space. On the whiteboard, I diagrammed Securitech's transaction architecture from memory, highlighting where Meridian's integration would create precisely the conflicts they were experiencing. We've been building for this moment, I told the team. The adaptive security framework we've developed could interface with their existing infrastructure without disrupting transaction flows. Layla studied the diagram. We'd need to create custom connectors for their legacy systems. Aiden was already typing. I can have those ready by end of day. Raj looked up from his laptop. Should we reach out directly? I shook my head. Not yet. We continue building. When they start looking for alternatives, and they will, we need to have a complete solution ready, not just a concept. By evening, news of Securitech's security breach hit the financial technology press. Meridian's stock dropped 7% in after-hours trading. The cease and desist letter arrived by courier the following morning. Meridian's legal department demanding immediate cessation of competitive activities and threatening litigation for alleged intellectual property violations. I forwarded it to Eliana Torres, who called me immediately. "They're phishing," she said. "They have no evidence of IP theft because there isn't any. This is intimidation, not litigation." Later that day, Elizabeth Winters herself attempted contact, first through LinkedIn, then via email, and finally through a direct call. I let go to voicemail. "Michael, we should discuss your current activities," her message began. "There may be a place for you at Meridian as a consultant during this transition period. Please call me at your earliest convenience." The translation was clear. They were failing and wanted me to help fix the problems they'd created, while legally binding me to their organization. I didn't respond, focusing instead on perfecting Altitude's security architecture. Our team worked around the clock, fueled by the opportunity to build something genuinely innovative without corporate constraints. 3 days after Securitech's security breach made headlines, Meridian escalated their tactics. They contacted 3 potential clients we'd identified, warning them about ongoing litigation concerning our technology. A complete fabrication, but effective in creating doubt. That evening, our team gathered to assess the situation. The mood was tense until Sasha arrived with unexpected news. Securitech's CTO reached out directly, she announced. Their board has authorized exploration of alternative security providers under emergency protocol. They want a presentation tomorrow. Raj looked concerned. Meridian will block any formal engagement. I smiled for the first time that day. They can try, but Securitech's own client contracts require them to maintain certain security standards. Standards Meridian has now demonstrably failed to meet. Aiden understood immediately. Creating a legal necessity that overrides any objection Meridian might raise. Exactly, I replied. Sometimes your opponent's greatest vulnerability is their own overconfidence. The Securitech presentation was scheduled for 10 a.m. in their downtown Austin offices. Our team arrived early, setting up in their glass-walled conference room overlooking the city. The stakes couldn't have been higher. This wasn't just a potential first client, but validation of everything we believed about security architecture. Securitech's executive team filed in precisely at 10. Their CTO, Victor Menendez, their CFO, and 3 senior technical directors I recognized from previous collaborations. The tension in the room was palpable until Victor broke it with unexpected candor. "Let's skip the pleasantries," he said. "Our security infrastructure is compromised. Meridian has failed to deliver what they promised. We have transaction data flowing through inadequately secured channels, and regulatory audits scheduled in 3 weeks. I nodded, appreciating the directness. We're prepared to demonstrate a solution that can be implemented within 10 days, with zero disruption to ongoing operations. For the next hour, we demonstrated Altitude's adaptive security architecture using a working prototype, showing precisely how it would interface with Securitech's existing systems while resolving the conflicts Meridian's approach had created. We ran simulations with their actual data structures, providing real-time evidence of our solution's effectiveness. The technical directors asked increasingly detailed questions, which Aiden and Layla answered with the confidence that comes from deep understanding. When we finished, Victor turned to his team. Thoughts? The senior infrastructure director spoke first. This is essentially what we asked Meridian for 6 months ago, what they promised to deliver but couldn't. Victor turned back to me. The elephant in the room. Meridian will fight this contract with everything they have. I slid a document across the table, a legal analysis prepared by our attorney. This details why any objection would fail. More importantly, it outlines how quickly we can deploy compared to the time Meridian needs to fix their approach. Victor scanned the document, then looked up with determination. We'll need final approval from the board, but I'm recommending immediate engagement. How soon can you start? Our team is ready now, I replied. We've been preparing for this moment since the day Meridian decided innovation was expendable. 10 days after our presentation, following thorough technical validation and legal review, Securitech's board unanimously approved an emergency implementation contract with Altitude Security. Meridian's legal team, anticipating this development, had already prepared their response. They filed for an emergency injunction to block the agreement, forcing a hearing scheduled for the following week. The courtroom was tense as both legal teams presented their arguments. Meridian's attorney painted us as rogue employees who had stolen proprietary technology. Our counsel methodically dismantled their claims, presenting clean development logs and highlighting the fundamental differences in our approach. When Securitech's general counsel testified about the critical security failures under Meridian's system, the judge's expression shifted visibly. His ruling came swiftly, injunction denied. Meridian had failed to demonstrate likelihood of success on the merits of their intellectual property claims, and the public interest clearly favored restoring secure financial transactions. We began implementation that afternoon. Working around the clock and rotating shifts, our team integrated Altitude's security framework with Securitech's transaction architecture. What Meridian had failed to accomplish in months, we achieved in 9 days, completing the implementation a full day ahead of schedule. The moment when Securitech's security monitoring dashboard displayed all systems secure, with no conflicts, no data pathway vulnerabilities, remains one of the most satisfying of my career. Victor Menendez stood beside me, watching the performance metrics stabilize across all regions. "This is what we originally wanted," he said quietly. "Security that adapts to our needs rather than forcing us to adapt to a standardized approach." News of our successful implementation spread quickly through the financial technology sector. Meridian stock dropped another 11% as analysts questioned their technical capabilities and integration strategy. Elizabeth Winters was reassigned to a subsidiary division. Marcus Chen departed for a venture capital firm. His brief executive career at Meridian concluded. 3 more enterprise clients approached us within 2 weeks, each experiencing similar integration failures with Meridian's system. Altitude Security was no longer just a response to personal betrayal. It had become a market necessity. 2 years after that first emergency implementation at Securitech, I stood in Altitude Security's new headquarters overlooking downtown Austin. What had begun with 5 people in a converted warehouse had grown to a team of 43 specialists, with clients including 3 of the nation's largest financial institutions and a growing portfolio of government contracts. The journey hadn't been easy. Meridian had pursued litigation for months before finally accepting a settlement that acknowledged our independent development. We'd faced cash flow challenges during our rapid growth phase and weathered the departure of Raj to a competitor, though we parted on good terms. But through it all, we'd remained focused on our core principle: adaptive security architecture built around client needs rather than standardized solutions. My office door opened as Layla arrived for our weekly strategy meeting, now conducted as equals. She had become Altitude's CTO 6 months earlier. "Did you see the news?" she asked, setting her tablet on my desk. The headline made me smile. Meridian announces restructuring of security division following client losses. They never understood what made Skyward Tech valuable in the first place, Layla observed. I nodded, thinking about the 15 years I'd given to building something that had been dismantled in months by people who saw only balance sheets and organizational charts. Being pushed out was the best thing that could have happened, I said, realizing the truth in the words as I spoke them. We're building something better now, something truly aligned with what clients need. Later that evening, I received an unexpected email from William Chen, containing only a link to an industry analysis article naming Altitude Security as the new standard bearer for adaptive security architecture, and 5 words: "This was always your destiny." Looking out at the Austin skyline, I reflected on how differently things might have turned out had Elizabeth Winters recognized the value of what we'd built at Skyward Tech. The bitter irony, in trying to standardize and control innovation, Meridian had instead catalyzed the creation of their most formidable competitor. Sometimes getting pushed out of the wrong place is exactly what you need to find the right one.